Rahu, North Node, has transited into its new nakshatra already. Let's see the effects of that on all of us. Hello everybody, I'm Tina Chaudhary. Welcome to my channel and a very warm namaste. On October 5th, Rahu or North Node has transited into its new nakshatra. A nakshatra is the lunar constellation of Kritikka. Now, for people that don't know, there's 27 nakshatras or lunar constellations, and there's 12 zodiac signs. So there's 2.5 constellations or nakshatras in each zodiac sign. So Rahu or North Node is transiting in the sign of Taurus. So it's still in Taurus, but it's moved to its new constellation or nakshatra of Kritikka. Now earlier it was transiting in Rohini. And why is these transits important? Because each lunar mansion or constellation depicts a completely different energy and a completely different planet. So earlier it was in the constellation of Rohini, and Rohini was ruled by the moon. Now it's moved into, on October 5th, it's moved into the constellation or the nakshatra of Kritikka. Now Kritikka is ruled by the sun. So let's take a look at what Kritikka means and how we can make predictions based on this transit of Rahu. Now Kritikka means, like I said, is ruled by the sun, but it's depicted by three things. The first thing that it depicts Kritikka is a sharp blade or a razor or something very sharp that can cut things. That's the first significance of Kritikka. The other significance of Kritikka is fire. So a fire that can destroy, but fire has positive as well as negative energy, because a fire can do good as well as bad. If there wasn't fire, we wouldn't be able to cook or do anything positive with it. Don't forget, the sun is fire too. So if the sun wasn't, there wouldn't be life on the planet. So the sun or fire is life-giving. But when fire gets out of control, it can destroy as well. So the sun or fire has positive as well as negative energy. The third depiction of Kritikka is the god Kartikeya, and in Hindus believe that there is god of he's a warrior god, and he's the son of Shiva and Parvati, and he was born to destroy the evil or the demons or the evil energies. You can think of it like that. So depicts three things, and the fourth depiction, I know I said three, but the god is not a depiction. So the third depiction of it is the peacock, the bird peacock. So it depicts all these things. Now let's take a look at the significance of the zodiac sign Taurus. Now Taurus is the second zodiac sign of all the 12 signs. So the second zodiac sign or Taurus represents family. It represents wealth. It also represents finance, mostly family savings, finance, and it represents our speech pattern or our communication pattern. And it also represents the food we eat, because it represents our mouth, and so it represents the food we eat. So I said that the Kritikka nakshatra is ruled by the sun. So what does the sun represent in astrology? The sun represents our soul. That's the first main representation. So the sun represents our soul, but the sun also represents our fathers in relationships. So the sun represents our soul, our fathers, and it also represents all the governing bodies. So the government leaders, heads of states like presidents, prime ministers, the high levels. It also represents the leaders of very big organizations. And also the sun represents your bosses, your immediate boss. And like I said, it represents your father. So that's what the sun represents. And of course, the sun represents fire as well. And so since we're talking about Rahu or North Node, we're going to talk about what Rahu represents in Vedic astrology. Now, I do have a video that I put out many months ago with the detail about what Rahu represents. You can watch that if you want. I'll put it on my end card. But for now, the short version of what Rahu represents is that Rahu represents our fears, our obsessions, and our passions. So Rahu is very obsessive. It's an obsessive planet. So wherever it's placed in somebody's birth chart, it indicates our obsession in this life. So our obsession will be geared towards that house or the representations of that house. Also, it represents the virtual world. So right now we consider that this is a virtual world in today's time, because things that don't exist. Rahu is a planet that actually doesn't exist. It's the north shadow of the moon. So the moon has two shadows, a north shadow and a south shadow, and the south shadow is the Ketu and north shadow is Rahu. So these are virtual planets. So of course they would represent everything that's virtual. What's virtual? So virtual is things that we see through the social media, because those people aren't really there. It's a virtual world that we're looking at. So it's YouTube that I'm talking to you right now. Social media is all virtual. Facebook, Instagram. All these things are represented by Rahu. When you use, your iPad or your phone and you're looking at things through it, all kinds of media, like I said, Instagram, Facebook, so, TikTok and YouTube and all those things, that's Rahu energy. One of the tips that I'm going to give you is that while you're eating your meals or any food, and if you're watching social media, it actually is very bad for your digestion and stomach. Why is that? Because food represents moon, and that represents Rahu, and Rahu and moon are enemy planets. Hence, it's very bad for your body to be watching social media and eating at the same time. And I know a lot of little children do that, but it's really very bad for your health and your digestion, because you don't digest that food well, because you're absorbing the Rahu energy while you're eating. And like I said, Rahu and moon are very enemy planets, and so Rahu doesn't let you digest your food well. So let's take a general look at what happens within the world and to all of us. What is the effect of all of us when Rahu moves into this Krittika Nakshatra? Now, like I said, Kritika is a blade, and also Rahu is going to be ruled by the sun. Now, this is a lot of fire energy. It's a lot of separative energy. So, and it also rules the leaderships. So, and Rahu is usually, it's a fiery planet. It's a challenging planet, I should say. So right now, it's going to be a challenging time for the government and leaders. So it's as far as their health is concerned, because don't forget, second house rules your mouth and the food you eat. So it's your general health. So it also depends on your personal birth chart, but generally, this is not a good time for leaderships, government leaderships, leaders, high-level leaders. It's not a good time for their health, and it's also not a good time in general for their career, because Saturn is also sitting in Capricorn, which is ruled by the career. So basically, when you put all of those two things together, I think it's going to be a challenging time for world leaders in general. You might hear over the next few months, you might hear that their health has suffered, or they are facing a very challenging time in their career. So it's, like I said, it's a challenging time for that. Also, because of the blade issue, it represents, Kritika represents a blade, so cuts. So we have to be very careful that depending, of course, it all depends on where our own Rahu is placed, but we have to be careful that a lot of people could have a lot of surgery, because surgery means cutting the body. So it also means literal cutting of the body. So a lot of people may end up having surgeries. You have to be really careful how you drive so you don't hurt yourself. So it does give you, during this time, it does give you the chances of getting hurt or cutting yourself or harming yourself in some way. So you have to drive carefully, make sure that when you're using knives and stuff, or any weapons or things, objects that can cut you, scissors and stuff, you have to be very careful, because the chances of you hurting yourself are higher, because the Rahu energy is very prevalent at this time, very strong at this time. So you have to be very careful with that. And of course, people that were sick for a while might end up having surgery during this time for the 7 months. So I neglected to tell you that this Rahu moved into Krittika on October 5th, and it's going to stay there till June 3rd. So this is a 7-month transition, and so whatever I'm going to say is for about 7 to 8 months. Rahu also represents our toxins, poisons, drugs. and physical, substance abuse and those kind of things. So we have to be very careful when we're using these, because that energy, the negative energy, when we use that, is going to be very high at this time. Also, Rahu's main representation is suddenness, like all of a sudden, things that we couldn't even have imagined will happen. So Rahu represents that as well, where, sudden events and things that we don't imagine, it'll just all of a sudden give you that event. So right now, if somebody has Rahu, Antardasha, Mahadasha, or any kind of dasha they're going through, they always going to experience suddenness of events, sudden change of destiny, sudden events that cause a change of destiny also. So that happens when you have undergoing Rahu energy. One of the things that Venus represents is celebrities, and like I said, leadership and celebrities as well. So Venus represents celebrities. So you could, possibly see some scandals coming out related to celebrities or government officials, high level officials. So you could see some news coming out, some scandals breaking. They could involve drugs or, because Rahu represents that. So, all of this kind of energy is going to be very prevalent over the next few months. So, and even for ourselves, the common man, we're not celebrities, but we may not be high government officials, but when we do something wrong related to something like that, which is Taurus represents sexuality, lust also, so when we do certain things like that, there's a chance of the scandal breaking out and coming out in the open as well, because Rahu's very well known for breaking scandals, because breaking scandals and putting things out in the public, but especially as far as celebrities goes. But I think that the guidance I can give you is to stay out of trouble, otherwise, or stay out of secret trouble. Otherwise, there's a chance of it coming out in the open and people finding out about it. Because don't forget, Rahu is the virtual world, and so things breaking out in the social media is very high. Also, we have to control our own anger at this time. Anger and ego issues come to the fore. So the sun represents our ego as well. So we have to watch our anger, because Rahu not only represents the blade, which is physical cutting, but it also has separative tendencies in our life, which means separating from people and relationships. So we need to be very careful of how we handle our ego, our anger, and our communication. Remember, I said Taurus is a sign of communication. So we need to handle how we communicate and how we handle our ego, arrogance, and communication, handling relationships, because they can actually separate from us, but depending upon how we communicate or how we handle these relationships. Because Kritikka does have a separative tendency. It can not only physical have separation, meaning the cutting of the body, but it also has separation from people. Anything that causes a separation, it has the right now the chances of that happening are very high. Hence, we need to watch our own energy to make sure it doesn't take over in a very negative way. Before I move on to predictions, I always remind you, if you haven't subscribed to my channel, please do so. If you like the video, share it with friends and family, and I love comments. So if you can make comments, please go ahead and do so. My predictions are based on your ascendant or rising sign. And if you don't know your rising sign, you can drop me a note about your time of birth, place of birth, and date of birth, and I'll let you know what your ascendant sign is, so you can always listen to the correct predictions. Also, the predictions are general. They're based on transits of just Rahu. They don't really take much account of the other transits. And of course, actual big events in your life are always based on your own birth chart and the placement of Rahu in your own birth chart. So the first sign is Aries. Aries, Rahu is right now in your second house. So the second house, like I said, is savings, finance. And so this is a good time for that. So Rahu is good over there. It gives you good savings. It gives you good income potential. So if you wanted to start something new regarding, money or, income related, finance related project, it's a good time to do that. So you could do that. One of the things that you need to watch for, because I said it signifies food, is you have to watch what you eat very carefully, otherwise it might just impact your health. So make sure you take care of what you eat, take good care of your health, and watch what you eat, and take good care of your health. Like I said, this is a good time for your children. It's looks at the fifth house, so it's good time for your children. And also, one of the things that I can caution you against is watch your public image very carefully. Keep it clean. You know, don't do anything risque or something that you are, anything secret that you don't want everybody to find out, because if you do, it will come out in the public, and you know, you won't be very happy about it. So keep your public image clean and good for finance, and watch what you eat and take good care of your health. Taurus, Rahu is transiting in your own ascendant house, your first house. So you're going to be impacted by it considerably. But it also depends on where your sun is placed in your birth chart. So depending upon where sun is placed and how it's positioned, your public image could either get very, very improved, or it may suffer a little bit. But it also depends on how your communication skills are at this time. So that's going to be a very important factor for you in the next month, or sorry, next 7 months, on how you're communicating professionally, as well as communicating with your family members. Communication is going to become very key for you right now, because Taurus is a house of communication. So professional communication, courteous communication, very, very positive communication, I should say, shall actually get you great rewards during this transit, or at least after it. The benefits that you get from positive communication are going to be good. Otherwise, if you have negative communication, angry, egoistic communication, there's going to be consequences that you may, for a long time, that you may not like. So communication is key. Your expenses are going to go up during this time because the 12th house is getting impacted. So make sure that your expenses, if you don't want to spend, then make sure you watch your expenses. And also your health, you need to watch your health very carefully. Make sure you're eating well, very healthy, and also you might have an exercise regimen. If you do, your health is going to be good. Otherwise, you really, like I said, need to take care of your health. Again, communication is very key for Taurus individuals. That's going to determine how your next 7 months goes. Gemini, Rahu is in your 11th house, and normally 11th house Rahu is considered a good thing, because 11th house is desire fulfillment, gains, your network and your social circle. But the sun is your 3rd house, so this is a hard working time for you. You have to guard against being lazy. Work very, very hard if you want to see these gains and you want to get these professional results, or you want to get your wish fulfillment. It's a time to work hard. Guard against being lazy. Also, take care of your sexuality. Don't let it get out of control and chase after, people that you shouldn't be chasing after. And so watch against that. The best guidance I can give you is to put your head down and just work very hard, because the rewards that you're going to see after that, because like I said, Rahu in the 11th house is amazing. But in order to get that amazing results, you guys are going to have to work really hard. Take the initiative, take chances, do whatever it is to take, and put that into your hard work, and you're going to see marvelous results after that. Again, watch against being lazy, and don't chase after people, or the lustful thoughts and chasing after the opposite sex. I think can take a back seat for now. It may not end well. And also watch your expenses. Cancer, Rahu is in your 11th house, and the 11th house is the house of wish fulfillment, desire fulfillment, gains from your career. So right now, you're probably having a good run with your career. You're probably very satisfied and happy with it. But one of the things that you have to caution you against is that the sun is your 2nd house. So, if that's your communication, right? So you have to watch your communication right now, because it's going to give you a lot of arrogance, and it's going to give you a lot of ego, and you really need to watch that. So as long as you watch your communication and your ego, your gains and your wish fulfillment will sustain. If you damage that sun, because don't forget, Kritikka is being ruled by the sun. So if you damage it by your ego, your big giant ego, or your communication, your angry or arrogant communication, you will damage that house immediately. So Rahu will start giving you the negative effects of the 11th house. So you're going to lose what you have, or you may eventually lose what you have. As long as your communication is professional, it's nice, it doesn't have the arrogance, it doesn't have the ego, and you're humble, you will be able to manage Rahu, and you have your career still going strong. Or getting stronger. Now I see some career change after April when Rahu moves into your 10th house of career. There could be some career change at that time, and it could be for a good thing or a good change if you have managed your communication and your ego well now. Otherwise it could be a bad change. So you're one of the ascendants that really needs to watch it. If you want to get the benefits later or even now. So you will see the effect of your own behavior later or throughout these 7 or 8 months actually, and after April you'll just really see how you've been. You're one of the ascendants that might get a report card on their career later. So very, very good caution. I'm giving you a very good guidance. I'm going to give you. Make sure you watch that, and you will get good benefits later after April when Rahu moves into your 10th house. Leo, Rahu is in your 10th house, and the 10th house denotes career status, your profession, and it's ruled by the sun right now, and the sun is your ascendant lord. So right now this is going to be a very fiery time for you. It's going to be a good time for your career. It depends on how you're handling your own sun. Like, how are you managing your own soul energy? Are you being positive or are you being negative? So this is going to be like in your control, so to speak, meaning no aggression. Manage your aggression, manage your ego, and you will see great changes in your career, because Rahu in your 10th house is a good placement, because it might give you good results in your career. But you really have to manage the ego, which is your sun, because that's your ascendant lord. So it's really more important for you than other ascendants, because the sun, it's been ruled by the sun, and Leo is ruled by the sun. That's their ascendant lord. So make sure you manage your anger and your arrogance. This is a great time if you're looking for a job. You might find it. This is a great time. There may be job changes. There may be actually recognition with the bosses. You might get rewards at work. So it's a good time for your career, or your advancement of your career also. After April, when it moves into the 9th house, I think that Rahu will give you foreign travel. Virgo, Rahu is in your 9th house. So the 9th house relates to or signifies dharma, your religion, your father. It also relates to long distance travel, and it also relates to karmic luck. One of the things that also relates to or signifies is teaching or coaching people. So you might be noticing that karmic luck has been on your side as far as money is concerned, because don't forget that it's Taurus and it rules money. So you might be getting a windfall of money, or you might be earning more, or you might be getting money more than you thought you would get. So it definitely shows an increase in income. But it also, sun is your 12th house ruler, so it definitely would mean that the next 7 or 8 months is going to be high expense months. So you might have a lot of expenses also. The money comes in, but the money goes out. If you have things that you're teaching others, or you're learning something, it's because it relates to knowledge or teaching, coaching others. So you may be doing that a lot, where you're teaching or coaching others, or you are being coached, or you go for a course and you learn something. So it definitely denotes that education of all kinds, whether you give it out or you take it. So it definitely denotes education. I think if you're a student, you need to work really, really hard to get the benefits. So also you might be thinking and planning of long distance travel. So during these 7 or 8 months before April, you might want to be wanting to travel long distance, because the 9th house does signify that. Now after April, when Rahu moves into your 8th house, you need to take better care of your health. Something below the waist, you might have a problem with that. So make sure you take good care of your health, and watch how you drive after April, because 8th house is sudden events. So Rahu is not very kind to the 8th house. So make sure after April you need to take good care of your health. Libra, Rahu is in your 8th house right now, and the 8th house is always a challenge for astrologers, because it gives you a little challenging times sometimes. But Rahu is a significator of sudden events, and right now it's in Kritikka, which means cuts and separations. So be very careful how you deal with your marriage partner and your business partner. Communication is key, because if you don't handle those relationships well, you don't want there to be a split or a separation. So be very, very careful right now. One of the things, like I said with Kritikka in my early introduction, was that it gives you separations and cuts. So watch your health very carefully, drive very carefully when you're dealing with sharp knives and objects. It's for my Libra ascendants, you have to be very careful, because the 8th house does represent Sometimes it represents surgery, sometimes it represents little cuts, so make sure you drive carefully and take good care of yourself. Now, I don't want to scare anybody. 1/12 of the world is not going to have surgery, so just these are just transits. You have to be very careful. It depends on your own birth chart as well. After April, when it moves into the 7th house, it's you again, like I said, you need to watch your marital relationship very carefully, and the relationship with your business partners. So again, it's not a time to get angry with people. This is not a time to use anger, arrogance, or fiery word or fiery speech, because you will damage yourself beyond belief if you try to do that right now. Be very cordial, be very nice, and be very courteous to bosses, business partners, and spouses. Who's left? That's everybody, right? So just watch your speech very carefully. Rahu in Kritika does not give it results. It's one of the Nakshatra. Kritika is not a forgiving nakshatra. Now this warning, this guidance is a strong guidance. So make sure this communication and arrogance is under control. Otherwise, the 8th house also signifies your spouse's earnings, which might be good at this time, so enjoy them. Otherwise, take good care of your health. Scorpio, Rahu is in your 7th house. The 7th house denotes relationships, marriage, as well as business relationships. So Rahu Kritika in the 7th house tends to give ego and arrogance in these relationships. And so that's probably what you're going through now. And now, because it's ruled by the sun, and the sun is your 10th house, which is career, if you put that all together, you can see that it's probably where you're very arrogant at work, and you feel like you should be the ruler and people should bow down to you at work and have that ego. So you're working with an inner ego. You may not be showing it to everybody at work and behaving like you have this ego, but it's within you. The internal ego is where, why isn't everybody bowing down to me? And so this internal ego is taking over you right now, and it's actually very destructive energy that starts to manifest itself. So the best guidance I can give you is to control this energy, because Rahu, Nakshatra, Kritika are very separative energies. If it keeps festering within you, it's going to cause separation with lots of people and lots of relationships. So like I said, if you listen to my introduction, this is a destructive kind of a combination, where North Node comes into Kritika is a destructive energy. So if you let it take over you, it's going to destroy and burn off a few things, because don't forget, it's ruled by the sun. So it's going to cause the burning of some things with, like I said, relationships, some of the good things that you have. It may cause them to burn and cause maybe legal issues later on also, because after April, Rahu is going to move on to your 6th house, and the 6th house is competition, legal issues, and other things. So it's best that you control this ego right now. Just put your head down and enjoy the success that you have, because Rahu in the 10th house or the 7th house, and the sun is your 5th house, the sun is your 10th house, gives you a lot of success. It gives you a lot of career success. So my guidance to you is, forget the ego, forget the arrogance, and enjoy your career success, because right now it's a very successful time for you. It's going to stay successful because of the sun and the Rahu combined. It's going to be a very, very good time for you. Of course, it's going to be an expensive time for you as well, because your 12th house gets activated as well. If you can afford it, by all means go for it. But it's a very good time for career. It's a very good time for earnings. It's a very good time for rewards and recognitions, if you keep your head and your arrogance down. Also, don't be rebellious. It's not a good time for that. Like I said, all these negative energies within your soul need to be burned at this time. Otherwise, they will manifest themselves after April in a very negative way, because the 6th house is a challenging house. So my guidance to you is, enjoy what you have going. Let the negative emotion go and see the results after April. They will be marvelous for you. Sagittarius, Rahu is in your 6th house. The 6th house denotes competitions, winning against enemies, winning if there's lawsuits, winning against them. So basically winning against someone else. So it's a good time for that. Rahu's probably giving you that already. Otherwise, it's a little bit of a challenge where, it wants you to rebel. Don't fall for that energy. It's not a good time for rebellion of any kind. You may also feel that at this time there may be too much debt on you, or or you may be taking on too much debt. So I'm going to just kind of warn you against that. Don't take on too much debt. Sixth house does denote debts and loans and stuff like that. So there may be those kind of issues going on. Also, you may feel like you have the support of superiors at this time. That's what Rahu in the sixth will do, is give you good support of your superiors at this time. It's a good time for students. If you're a student at this time, it's a good time for you, because obviously if you're going to sit and take tests or exams and something competitive, it's a great time for that. It doesn't mean you don't study, but it's a good time for that. It also depends on where your sun is placed at this time. So when there's challenging houses, you always have to look at where the ruler of Kritikka is placed. So you have to kind of see where your sun's placed. So if your sun's placed well, this is a really good time for you. If your sun's kind of challenged, it might be a little bit of a challenging time for you. So the sixth house, kind of have to see where your sun's placed. Otherwise, it's not a really bad time for you, as long as you keep, you don't have rebellion issues, and you don't kind of go against your superiors, or you don't go against your parents, or you don't go against the government. You don't do things like that, where you don't go against it. Don't start social media rants and raves, and don't do that. Otherwise, it's an okay time. Capricorn, Rahu is in your fifth house. So the fifth house denotes stocks, investments, children, and all the fun things, love life, and all of that, the good fun stuff of life. So one of the things I have to tell you, and the sun is your eighth house, so the eighth house is a challenging house. So, and for Capricorns, sun rules your eighth house, and the eighth house is sudden events. So you have to be a little cautious of a couple of things. One, make sure that you invest wisely. You don't just run into something and invest without thought, without thinking through it, because Rahu does represent fraudsters and scammers. So make sure you don't fall for something like that as far as your investments are concerned. Make sure you've done enough homework, you know what you're doing. Be very careful about that. The second thing is make sure you watch your communication with your children. Make sure you don't burn the relationships by being arrogant, by being angry, fiery speech, or whatever. Make sure you take very good care of your children and their relationships with them. So that's one thing. The other thing is watch your own health a little bit as well, and try to have fun, because I know that the sun is going to give you worries. So sometimes the eighth house give you unnecessary tensions, because the eighth house is a house of tensions and obstacles. So you might just be tense for no reason. You might feel like, I'm not having fun, and then just be very stressed and tense. So you can guard against that. There's no need to be tensed. It's just your eighth house being very active. So try to relax and think that there's no reason for me to be tense. I'm just being tense for no reason. The fifth house also does mantras and mantra siddhi, saying mantras, and it gives you good results when you do that. So that's the remedy for you guys, is to do mantras every day. Whatever it is that you want to do, just do a little bit of that, and it gives you immediate relief from your stress. So that's the remedy I'm going to give you. It works like magic. So just you make sure you do that if you are feeling stressed and you're Capricorn. So that's one thing. The other thing is take good care of your mom. Tell her you love her, because her health might be a little up and down depending upon where your sun is placed. So take good care of mom. Otherwise, after April, you need to take good care of your own health as well. There may be some changes in your housing situation or your home situation, or there may be expenses related to something that you do at home. Home related expenses. So but that's after April. We'll talk about it then. So in the meantime, it's an okay transit. It depends on how you handle the stress that it's going to cause you, of the stress that you think you're going to get from it. It might be just useless stress. Sometimes we just stress over nothing, and that's what Rahu for Capricorn is going to do, is just going to cause stress over nothing. Just relax and tell yourself this is stress over nothing. Make sure you thank the divine for everything you have, and let the stress melt away. Aquarius, Rahu is in your fourth house, and the sun rules your seventh house. So seventh house is your marriage partner, your business partner. And the fourth house is your domestic happiness, or the domestic bliss, or the four walls of your home. Now, Rahu in the fourth house almost always gives change of house, or a change of residence, or where you live, or something that changes in the house, in where you live. Even if you don't move to a new place, you may change something within your house. You may renovate it, you may move things around, or something like that. Also the seventh house, because Sun is there, your communication with your partner is not arrogance so much as it is a sense of detachment, because Kritika is a separative, nakshatra. So you may feel a sense of detachment and your communication may be very detached. So you need to guard against that, because this is not good for the relationship. So you need to guard against being in such a detached way of communication with your marriage partner and business partners. So that's what it gives you. Now the move, if you're physically moving to a new location, to your home, your change of residence, Rahu does that. And so if it hasn't already done that since the last year and a half, it will do that. It might do that in the next 7 months, and it might do that because of change of job or change of position or something like that. So it does that, when in the fourth house. Rahu almost always causes something change in where you live when it does in the fourth house. One of the great things about Rahu being activated in this manner for Aquarius ascendants is the fact that if you're associated with either getting commission-based income, or you're in the business of social media, or you do stuff on social media, like you have a YouTube channel like I do, or if you do stuff on Instagram or Facebook, TikTok, or whatever, you have business, something like that, it's a great time for that. It's a great time to get benefits from that, because Rahu denotes the virtual world, and the seventh house and the fourth house and the third house, if you work hard at it, it will give you good results from that, good recognition. The seventh house is also the house of your public image, so it gives you good public image if you work hard at it, because the third house wants you to work really hard and dedicated towards it. So if you work hard and you're dedicated towards it, it gives you good public image. So this is a good part for Aquarius. Some of the things, like I said, guidance is, make sure you're not detached from your partner. Make sure you stay good with the relationship. Pisces, Rahu is in your third house. The third house is a good place for Rahu, because Rahu gives you a lot of energy, and the third house is hard work. So it's going to give you a lot of energy to work hard, because the third house wants you to work hard, and it gives you a lot of good creative energy. It gives you a lot of desire and dedication to really work hard towards a goal. Now set yourself a goal. I'm giving you the guidance to give yourself a goal, because Rahu is crazy about goal setting, because it really goes after it. So if you give yourself a goal and set yourself to go after the goal, you have no idea what it'll get you, because Rahu loves goals and it will go after it with such a passion like you've never seen before. After April, it will move into the second house, and the second house is income and wealth. So after April, you will see the results of your income, increase in wealth, increase in savings. So come April, it will give you very good results as far as income and money is concerned. In the meantime, you do have to take very good care of your health, especially after April as well. Make sure you're eating well and eating healthy. So take good care of your health now, even after April, and make sure you set yourself a goal to get what you want and work hard at it. And this brings me to the end of my video today. Thank you for watching. Stay safe and goodbye.